Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome and thanks for your time, and thank you for joining our FireMapper webinar. My name's Conrad Gebels. I'm the co-founder of Firefront Solutions and your host for the evening. I'm also joined by Dave Morrison, a co-founder, and Stephen Roche, one of our software engineers, who you'll be hearing from later on. I'm also grateful to welcome Alex Godfrey and Mark Charteris from Northern Territory Fire and Rescue. Alex and Mark will be joining me for a fireside chat about their experience using FireMapper up in the Territory. It's been really great to see so many familiar names here, so I can't start without thanking our many passionate users and supporters. We constantly receive feedback and ideas, and we work very hard to improve our product and ultimately better serve the needs of emergency service personnel in Australia and overseas. Just take you through the agenda quickly. So we'd like to take your questions all the way through the session. There is a button somewhere on your screen there that allows you to enter questions. So they'll go to Dave and he'll make sure that we answer them throughout the session. So we'll talk a little bit first about who we are and what FireMapper is. And then we'll go into the fireside chat with Alex and Mark. And then we've got a demo of FireMapper Enterprise and the portal. And at the end, we'll hang around and take questions and talk for as long as you want. So if there's interest in continuing to ask questions, then yeah, happy to hang around afterwards. So just a little bit about us. So we're a Australian owned and operated business that started from a couple of RFS volunteers that got sick of receiving outdated paper maps. So we're proud that FireMapper is built by firefighters for firefighters, but we're also software engineers. And so over the past few years, we've built what we believe is a comprehensive and intuitive solution, and it's designed to be used in the field. We've also grown a lot in the past 18 months, and it's now our privilege to serve thousands of emergency service personnel with our enterprise subscriptions, not just in Australia, but across New Zealand, Canada, and into the US as well. And fundamentally, we've built our product on the belief that mapping should be easy. So let me show you a bit about how that is. So we really enjoy seeing the novel ways that our customers find to use FireMapper, and that typically is either before, during, or after an incident. So in planning and exercises and training, especially during COVID, we've seen some really great examples of FireMapper being used as a training tool. And it's also effective, of course, for generating pre-incident plans, or maintaining a living map of your local area. So if you do your burn plans in FireMapper, it will, of course, then seamlessly transition into the start of operations once you've got fire on the ground. And from those plans, you can generate PDF maps, you can print maps directly from FireMapper, and you can export into other systems. Moving into operations and incidents. So it could be the execution of a burn plan, or it could be the first truck on scene, capturing the initial information on the location and size of a fire. And in less than a minute, you can capture enough information so that the trucks on their way have visibility of what they're up against. You can capture photos to assist as with the appreciation of the size of the incident as well. Some quick examples of how FireMapper gets used in this context could be keeping track of the precise location of the going fire edge, an HR or a burn. Could also be the location of widowmakers, smokers, spot fires, threatened assets, gates, turnaround points, safety refuges. So there's no shortage of ways to build on your situational awareness using the product. And what we've seen a bit of recently as well is using notes within FireMapper to assist with handover at shift change as well. And then after the fire goes through, you've got impact assessment. So that's the status of critical infrastructure, damage to houses and assets. You capture photos as well. And if your cell coverage is out, then you can work offline and sync that data once you get back online. So just in the slides behind me, you can see for each one of those use cases, we've got specific symbology and functionality to support those use cases. So what else are we working on? Well, quite a bit actually. So I thought I'd give you a quick overview of some of the things that we've got in the pipeline. Number one, so interagency collaboration. We've got a lot of customers, but they're all across different subscriptions and different services. They do also work together from time to time. So that could be neighbouring districts, or it could be different agencies that work in the same area. A good example is national parks, the RFS, and local councils that all have a fire mitigation responsibility. So where everyone involved has FireMapper, we're going to make it as easy as a couple of clicks to share maps between agencies. So you may not be able to see their maps normally, but if you're working together, you'll be able to tell FireMapper to share between subscriptions. I think I've got a question. See if I can get to where it is. So thanks, Warnervale RFS. So is there an access code to use the app for RFS, or do we need to pay for it as individuals yeah, so at the moment, what brigades typically are doing is either paying for it out of their own brigade funds, or we've also seen some districts that have been able to get the council to fund it as well. And it varies state to state and district to district as well. So yeah, we've seen it all. I suppose I know that's not really answering the question. It's not a product that's provided by the RFS at this stage, so it is a responsibility of brigades to purchase themselves. Okay, going on with my points here. Yeah, so interagency collaboration will be a really great way for different customers that don't usually see each other's maps to be able to work together on the same map. A really, really cool capability. Next, we've got search and rescue. So we are working with a state police force to design a set of symbology and tools to support the execution and planning of search and rescue operations. This will also include our location tracking system, which means that a search commander can see in real time a heat map of where their search parties have covered, overlaid on top of their plan. So pretty game-changing stuff for work that typically is done with pencil and paper. Next, we've got urban ops. So we're working with a state fire agency to design the symbology for generating pre-incident plans in an urban context. So that's things like hydrant boosters, ring mains, location of switchboards, high voltage, emergency exits, all that type of stuff that you would expect to see on a PIP for a building, as opposed to a burn plan for in a bush context. And partnerships. So we've completed a couple of projects recently with organizations we believe leading in their space. First of all is Tablet Command. Tablet Command have a unique app for managing incidents, and we're now integrated with them so that we can provide a really detailed mapping capability on top of their incident management tools. Track Plus. So Track Plus provide a global aircraft and appliance tracking solution. Notably, they do the data aggregation for NAFC and all the aerial firefighting platforms in Australia. So we've integrated their system into ours so that with the right permissions, you can see the location of all the firefighting aircraft in your state in FireMapper. And finally, Black Ops helicopters. So a unique recon capability with their MD500, also known as Firebird 225. So FLIR camera and daylight camera mounted on the aircraft, now fully integrated into FireMapper. So imagery captured from the air using the FLIR or daylight camera pops up immediately on their FireMapper devices for anyone also working that fire. So again, a really exciting capability. I might just see if we've got any questions. Yep. So there's just two here that I'll touch on quickly. So Darren, any thoughts on locating MSDS folders on your maps in an urban environment? Yep, definitely. So there'll be an material safety data sheet icon basically that you'll plonk onto the map. And Andrew, one of the biggest issues we find is using FireMapper offline. So we at the moment FireMapper provides the ability to work offline and then synchronize when you get back to an internet connection. And we are working on some functionality that allow peer-to-peer networking and synchronizing on devices when you're all offline, so by Wi-Fi and that type of thing. That's serious R&D on our part that we're working through at the moment. It is on our roadmap, and it won't be something that will happen this year. What we can do at the moment, though, is preload and cache base maps, so the base imagery on the devices. So that means that if you go offline, you'll still be able to see your base maps. I hope that makes sense. I think Dave is actually going to follow these up with some written answers as well. All right, I'll move on. So what does a FireMapper subscription actually get you? So you get our purpose-built rugged platform that includes the iOS and Android apps and our FireMapper portal. So that includes 10 devices within your brigade, and that means that those 10 devices can all work interactively on the same map in real time, whether it's a few members in your brigade or every crew, IMT, aircraft and appliance at a campaign fire. So we routinely have instances of 100 FireMapper devices or more working on a single incident, meaning that everyone that was online in that case had the latest information live on their devices. We can also deploy groups of brigades into districts. So you don't all have to have your own individual subscriptions. We routinely are gluing together brigades into districts, districts into regions, regions into states, and states into national solutions. And that's how we do it all over the world. And finally, our location tracking system, which is fully integrated into FireMapper. And that means not only do you see in real time changes being made to maps by everyone else on your subscription, but you also see the location of your trucks and aircraft and personnel overlaid on top of the map. Just behind me, you can see we've got quite a rich selection of aircraft and appliance types, and now IMT roles as well. So you can look at the map and see in real time where your sector commanders are, where your IC is, that type of thing. I'm really looking forward this fire season to seeing some non-ironic use of the jet ski and the large aerial tanker as well. But I guess it's a bit of fun. So we see different people use the appliances in different ways, and all of that is just what comes out of the box in a standard volunteer subscription. There's a lot more that we do to integrate with agency systems, such as ArcGIS, native compatibility, custom base maps, integrating with a customer's AVL, a location tracking solution, custom symbology, and also custom functionality. So you get a lot out of the box as a volunteer, but agencies where we're looking at larger deployments, there's a lot more that we can do on top of that as well. All right, I think we will. Sorry, Alex and Mark, I'll do a couple of questions and then we'll do the fireside chat if that's okay, because there's a bit of a backlog here. All right. Oh, sorry, team. I think I'll let Dave keep working through the questions here. There's too many for me to tap dance my way through good answers on the fly. So apologies. Dave will keep working on those and posting the answers, and I'll carry on with the presentation. We will answer all of them as well, even if we need to hang around at the end and do it then. So I appreciate the questions. Okay, so we're very proud to have been working with the NT government for a couple of seasons, and we've invited Mr. Alex Godfrey from Capability Development Command and Station Officer Mark Charteris from Fire Safety Command at NT Fire and Rescue to have a fireside chat with us about their experience running FireMapper Enterprise. So thank you very much, Alex and Mark, for joining us.
Thank you.
I will just spotlight you guys there. All right. So Alex and Mark, if you wouldn't mind just giving a quick introduction for everyone on the webinar.
Sure. So my name's Alex Godfrey. I've been working with the Northern Territory Government for about 14, 15 years, and primarily in a geospatial role. And I've been brought over to Northern Territory Fire Rescue to assist with uplifting a geospatial capability for the agency, which has been quite exciting, and been able to look at a number of different tools and applications, including FireMapper, to improve our operational efficiency. Mark, I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, so my role is fire prevention. I've got a history of bushfire mitigation and hazard abatement as well. Probably started using FireMapper about 2018. It was introduced to me and I found it really useful, and I basically wrote the business case, presented it, and it's sort of going to be a traction in the top end since.
Thank you very much, gents. And so can you tell us a little bit about the role that FireMapper has in your operations?
Sure. So there was a real need to provide a common operating platform during major fire events, and also to assist in some of our compliance activities. You know, the ability to be able to note hazards and things like burning tires that might be piled up in an area, or asbestos or other sort of hazards. So yeah, that's primarily the main use for the Northern Territory Fire Rescue Service. Mark probably had some more insights as to how he's using it operationally.
Yeah, so it's become a really valuable tool that's sort of continuously evolving as we sort of realize the app's potential. So in the NT, we've got to introduce graphs called Gamba, and it's really altered the dynamics. It's increased our fuel loads from about 3 to 5 tonne to about 15 tonne, and sometimes as high as 30 tonne. So the intensity of the fires is quite large, and what that's meant is like this increased risk, and how do we combat it? So basically, technology sort of stepped in, and that's where FireMapper has become really important to us.
Excellent. And can you tell us a little bit about how FireMapper has contributed to situational awareness at your incidents?
Also, it's provided a really valuable line of sight for our watch commanders and incident controllers. It's provided us a mechanism to really plan combat activities without a pen and paper or an outdated paper map. And when you enrich FireMapper with other spatial data sets, such as hydrants and property boundaries and fire scar history, it's really gained popularity, and the uptake's been great amongst the crews. It's been, I've worked with a lot of different GIS applications and built them myself, but it's just such an easy product to use. And when you're trying to teach non-tech guys how to use an iPad for the first time, or they're picking up an iPad to be able to use the softwares, and it'd be fairly intuitive, is really useful for us. Mark, I could probably.
So I think one of the most important things that I've sort of realized is it allows us to see the fireground before we even get there, and basically we can interpret the risk quickly, and it speeds up our whole size up. And instead of like having vehicles turn up randomly on the fireground, we can kind of like guarantee that they're all going to turn up the same place where they're needed. And it's kind of really important on those high fire danger days where seconds count sometimes, and if we can speed up the process, get everyone working and on the same page, it's just increased our situational awareness, really. Yeah.
And how have the crews taken to it, given it's a new piece of software and it's a new capability? How has that gone?
So there was a bit of initial hesitancy, I guess, when you implement any process or you change a process in any sort of field. You're always going to have people going, "Oh, what's this? Or is it more work? Or you're trapping us, or all that sort of stuff." But there was some initial hesitancy, and that was expected. But I think now that the crews are seeing the benefits and of it, they're really sort of started to embrace it. Now they're actually, guys that weren't even wanting iPads are now sort of screaming, "Where's our iPads? Where's our FireMapper?" So it's been good, and that means that we're getting the technology out, and of course we can do a lot with iPads if we get them out and people using them.
Yeah, for sure. And can you give us an idea of the scale of the rollout and how you approached it as well?
So the rollout, we were sort of arguing, or not arguing, but we were having a good debate about the best way to implement it. And I've rolled out some of these large scale mobile application projects before in another agency. It's actually a large utility in the Northern Territory, And quite a lot of the guys that were using tools were tradies or plumbers, and some of them hadn't even picked up an iPad. And so we didn't really want to force an application or process on them. We did what was called a soft go live in IT speak, which is basically introducing the technology in the iPads and allowing people to really just have a play with the technology to create that familiarization. And it works really well, because they're not feeling like it's forced on them or they're being pressured to do it. They're just getting to know at their own speed, because everyone learns at different speeds. And of course, there's different levels of aptitude with the iPads and technology. So, the younger guys pick it up, really, really quickly, but, some of the older guys are a bit more hesitant and sort of want to read the manual first and familiarize themselves. And they're always, I think the biggest barrier is they were scared they were going to break it. I'm like, you can't break this thing. You just can't. So, as we move forward now and they're becoming more familiar with the technology, rather than just adding features now, they're editing features, changing an active file line to an inactive file line. And so that's really good to see, and they're getting quite passionate about it. So I'm looking forward now to continuing our rollout with our southern region down in Alice Springs, and that should be happening in the next couple of weeks. So we're pretty excited to see how it goes down there. And just on that, as people become more and the agency is more familiar with the product, we'll start tightening the processes now and the expectations of how we use the app as well, to make sure we get that good governance around the use of symbology and when it's appropriate and when it isn't. But at the moment, we're sort of happy just for people to be using it.
No worries. And Mark, are there any tips that you can share from an operational perspective for anyone else that might be considering rolling out FireMapper?
Yeah, I think just to follow on what Alex just said, don't be afraid to use the app. The more you use it, the more familiar you become. And it's like doing that dry run before the real thing. If you play with it now, on that day when you're under the pump, you can quickly create your map, share it, and be familiar without actually being under pressure and then trying to learn as you go. And I think what our guys have done is, they've seen the value. We've had fires that spotted, a couple 100 meters, and they didn't even realize that the aircraft picked it up and they dropped a pin on it. Now, quickly able to locate that and put it out, and they've seen the value because we've saved time, we've saved effort, we've saved property. So I think the actual app, we're only just realizing the abilities. So there's things like fire investigation, being able to geo-reference a car fire and get valuable information from that event. There's all these little possibilities that are coming along that we're just, it's like awakening really. And the guys are just picking it up and running with it now.
Good stuff.
Interagency friends as well, police are very keen, to see the data because it's presented in an easy way, and that spatial format as well. They're pretty excited about the opportunities, as Mark touched on there, on what they can glean from the data that's being collected.
Good stuff. All right, gents, that's about time for us. Thank you very much for joining us and having a quick chat about your experience up in the Territory. Really appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll have some questions come through, but I'll do my best to answer them towards the end of the session. So thanks very much for your time. Very much appreciated.
No worries. Thank you.
Thank you.